Read not as rote, not as mere reading but realizing, experiencing the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of John as being to the self. These will aid in better conditions for the body. Read the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of John. Know that here ye are being spoken to. And apply that in thine own life, holding no resentments, believing and trusting in his divine presence. For, as he has given, if you will invite him into thy mind he will come. And with his presence, of what may anyone be afraid? Begin with the study of self not anatomically but spiritually. And the greater spiritual lesson you may gain is in the 5th chapter of Matthew. Learn this by heart, then read the 14th chapter of John and the 12th chapter of Romans. Then live them. Live them in thy daily relationships to others. Know that these words are spoken to thee. Apply these with thy application of the mechanical and material things for the body. Read and study carefully the 30th of Deuteronomy, also the 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th of John. Know, as ye read, that these words are applicable to yourself indeed. Not that you attempt to hypnotize yourself, but rather knowing deep within the soul self that all the forces or powers of creative energies that give life itself are within yourself, that you can trust wholly in the Creator, the divine within. Make those choices that ye must in every activity of body, mind, soul, trust wholly in him, that ye must let thy will be one with him, without reservation, without reservation. How could I better prepare my present state of mind and inner life to make it more conducive to a cure? As indicated, there is a great deal of effect produced upon the body through the imaginative or suggestive forces. If there is the establishing of better associations or connections physically with cerebrospinal and sympathetic, in the lumbar and sacral areas, also in the dorsal areas, and the body sets its mind to those lessons as may be gained in Deuteronomy 30, these will bring better realizations of purposes in the body or corrections for same. As ye read, let that read become active within self. Then study the 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th of John. Know that the direction is to thee, not someone 2000 years ago, but to thee. Then, as to the psychological condition. Begin to analyze self and the relationship the entity bears with the universe and its maker. Begin first by reading something from the book itself. It would be well to read first the first 5 to 6 verses of the first chapter of Genesis, and in the 3rd verse, understand what it means that the knowledge is within thine own self, the light necessary for you as 34-32 to be one of the best men God ever created. For he has promised to be with you, as an individual, if you will be with him. Then turn to Exodus 19:5. This is not talking merely to Jews or Hebrews or Israelites, it is talking to 34-32. Then read the 30th chapter of Deuteronomy. Again it is to you, an individual. Read then the promises in the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of John. They are not foolishness, my friend. It's the law of the Lord. And you must one day face it. Be a man. Be a man after God's own heart, not one ashamed, but rightly placing the emphasis where it belongs. How can I stay closer to the divine source or strength, knowledge and healing power? By becoming more and more conscious in self that those promises made in the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th of John may apply directly to self. Meditate upon them. Then apply them in thy relationships with others. Then apply self in that manner of reading the holy word, the 30th of Deuteronomy. Get its meaning as being written to thee. That if thou forsake the Lord, these shall come upon thee, if thou hearken unto his words, these are the promises that he will be with thee in the things thou doest, in the things thou thinkest, in the things thou would be. Not somewhere else, neither in heaven nor in hell nor over the seas, but within thine own body. For thy body is the temple of the living God. Use it as such, and not as a place for the lowest of earth and low thinking. Rather treat it as the altar of God. Sacrifice therein thine own appetites and offering to him those praises, those honors due for that he has given to thee. When thou hast done these, apply materially the promises as in the 14th and 15th of John, and ye will know good in thine own life. Can my health be improved enough for me to support myself? It should be, provided the mental and spiritual attitude is first set in the direction indicated. Do not begin the physical applications until the spiritual body has been renewed. Begin with this. Read the 30th chapter of Deuteronomy, knowing that it is meant for self. Read Exodus 19:5. Then study, know by heart, but most by application personally, the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of John. Apply it, not just as theory but in the words, in the acts, in the wishes, in the hopes, in the desires of the body. But continue to hold that attitude expressed in the 14th of John, and let the body-mind unite with that purpose, that ye may prepare for those that would come with thee, in the hope, in the life, in the purpose that is promised in the full resurrection of mind, of body, in the Christ. Amen. Begin with the 14th chapter as accorded in the scriptures of John, 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th. Keep these truths ever before the mental, and that necessary for this entity to develop in this present sphere will come as a light to guide throughout the rest of the entity's sojourn here. Do that, with a full understanding the best is being accorded the physical, the mental and the spirit elements of the body. Just how should the entity go about to prepare herself for her work as a teacher? The preparations have long been in formations. We would follow these, yet hold to the cross alone. To whom could I go to equip myself for this work? Best to study within self. And know that the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of John means you. Read Exodus 19:5, Deuteronomy 30, and the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of John. Do not just read with the idea in mind, yes, I know those, but apply them in the relationships to others, not as something boastful, not as well, I would like to do this so I can have my way, but let the prayer mostly be. Not my will, O God, but thine be done. For the mental development of the body, we would give that the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th chapters of John be learned, until the body can make these a portion of the inner self, realizing that the abilities of the entity and the purpose of each individual is to manifest their individual conception of the Father that dwells within them, and that even as He, the Master, is in him, the Father is in the individual who will attempt to manifest same, and that the greater service that is done to the fellow man is the highest service to the Creator. In this the spiritual awakening will come that is necessary in the individual, for in him we have life, and in life the understanding, and in the understanding, the manner of manifesting same before men. In the study, forsake not, of course, the true way and light. As is given from the beginning. God said, let there be light and there was light, and that light became, and is the light of the world. For it is true that light, that knowledge, the understanding of that Jesus who became the Christ, is indeed thy elder brother and yet Creator, Maker of the universe, and thus are ye a part of same and a directing influence. Then, as ye practice his principles ye become aware of same. And these are first. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy mind, thy soul, and thy neighbor as thyself. Study then, also the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of John as it speaks to thee, and as to how ye may apply thyself in the intuition, the walks with divine influences. And it is with what spirit ye entertain that ye measure that kind of helpfulness to thy Maker. Do what thou doest intuitionally, or as the Spirit moves thee. Please outline a course of study that will aid in my development. As the self is a sensitive that is, the soul development has been such that even in the material world, under those pressures of the mental and material things the soul in seeking may find that the communion with self, and that given by him that said, my spirit beareth witness with thy spirit, is the better channel. So, in studying self, in analyzing self, stay close to that he has given, and to that thy brother gave in the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th chapters of John. In these there may be found that which will raise self to that which may be expected of self, that he the Master may walk and speak with thee. Be satisfied with nothing less than that he will come and join in thy activities, as thou showest forth those things he has given are the fruits of the Spirit. No study is greater than that he gave, no lesson more far-reaching, no less and more penetrating than opening to the fountain of truth. The 30th chapter of Deuteronomy, the 42nd Psalm, the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th chapters of St. John, the 12th chapter of Romans, the 13th chapter of I Corinthians, these study. Not as rote, but read and study these oft. For in them may this entity find those answers to much that disturbs the entity oft when it muses alone. Let the entity keep close to that as may be gained, now, in the Corinthian love chapter and in the 14th of St. John. These to the body, now, will bring as it were a song, and will mean much in the reactions in the vision, the hearing, and the relationship the entity bears to its associates. Study to show, then, thyself approved unto him, as he hath laid down in that which has been transcribed by his friend, his servant, his companion, and that written in the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th chapters of St. John. Compare this with those as in the 12th of Romans and 13th of Corinthians also, and ye will find that which will make in thy life, in thy activity, a harmony and a peace that hath not heretofore existed. Quit yourself like a true son of a living God. Be not afraid. But if ye would bring the best, give of thy best, denying thyself, thy appetites, thy activities, that ye may know the Lord, for he will do thee good. Study as of the 30th chapter of Deuteronomy would be well. Especially those portions of same as to the admonition to each individual, that the divinity that is sought finds the greater expression, and is in the own self that attunement may be had. And also those as may be found in the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th chapters of St. John, how he that is the way has given his promises. And know that they are not just to those who were present, those words and that message given, but to each soul that seeks to know his face. For he is life, he is strength, and healing is in his presence. And no ill that may hinder can be in those hearts and minds that realize his presence is near, even as is given there that ye ask in that name. Please advise what I should do that I may accomplish that for which I am called. Hold fast to that trust in him. As ye read the 14th of St. John, as ye read in Luke thy blessings in the temple, there will be given thee much that is beyond giving words to hear. What type of studies should I pursue for the unfolding of my spiritual growth? The 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of St. John, with the 30th and 31st of Deuteronomy, not that these should become just as rote, but know them, and the beauty of them, and put some of it in each picture ye paint. Read, then, something of the scripture, as in the 30th of Deuteronomy, as in the 13th of 1 Corinthians, as the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of St. John. Not just reading as rote, but see in these that there is a message for thyself, that it is to thee this message is coming, to thee, these promises may be made materially manifest. And ye will find there will be a great deal of change in thy purposes in life, in thy activities towards others, yea, ye will find that many will go out of their way, apparently, to be nice to thee, where heretofore they have been quite aggravating at times. Meditate to prepare the body mentally and spiritually for such creative influences to bring that desired. Hence read the 30th of Deuteronomy, the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of St. John, not as of rote, but know that contained in same is to thee not as to others. Become more acquainted with self, self's purposes, self's desires. In the application of such in the present, then, turn more and more to those imports that are spiritual, not merely from those natures as indicated from the classical writers of old, but drawing a comparison of same with the admonishments of Moses, the admonitions of Samuel, and separate them, not merely as general teachings, but the admonitions of Moses, of Joshua, of Samuel, of David, of Asa, of Habakkuk, of Malachi, of Jesus. Not only read, but make a part of self, especially the 17th of St. John, also including the 3 chapters before this, and know that they apply to self. Draw them as comparisons, to make a practical application from the classics of old, and learn how in the organizing of 1, 2, 3, to the hundreds, to even the thousands, ye may as yet be able not only in person, but by thy writings and collaborations to be of service to many, by collaborations of those that will become more and more interested in the activities, and greater will be thy abilities as you learn to apply self as in the Persian period. Know the 30th of Deuteronomy, the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th of St. John, as the pattern of thy life, of thy relationships to others. What is the best way for me to get divine guidance for my numerous problems and enterprises? I pray all the time. Turn within. There is no better way than reading and analyzing the last admonition of Moses to his people in the last chapters of Deuteronomy and the messages found in the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th chapters of St. John that were repeated over and over by John to the mother of the Lord, who had so seldom heard the closer terms and descriptions used. Read these not with the attitude that you believe this or do not believe that. As you read, apply the messages not just to anyone but to self as though he, the Lord, were speaking alone with thee. Read only about 5 to 10 verses each day. Then apply that given in those verses for a day. Then read 5 to 10 more, apply that. You will find a regeneration. For, remember, thy body is the temple, there he has promised to meet thee. There ye may commune with him not outside. That from the outside must answer to that within. What is thy relationship to him? Keep the mental attitudes in that way and manner as may be indicated by a thorough perusal, but a living of each of the suggestions and activities indicated in the 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th of St. John. Turn to the words of him in the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th chapters of St. John, for he is the truth, the light, and the light of men, whose assurance and whose promises may be so much a part of self. For he, being the way, being the water of life, if ye take hold upon the promises there, they will indeed give refreshment to the mind, to the body, and that assurance to the soul of self that he indeed is thy brother. These are the mental and spiritual guidances.